Group B.
So we are live.
171. We're live?
Waiting for people to get on.
Woo! Seems like just yesterday we were here, wondering if Shelly was going to win the Rebel Rally, and Taylor Pauly, Team 100. Go Team 100! Go XLs!
Got two people on.
A couple folks on. We got a few things for you today. We're diving into the statistics here on the Rebel Rally. I'll get a little closer for mics. Shelly and Taylor Pauly of the XLs are in the final, 3 hours, 2 hours of the Rebel Rally, at least their run. And they have been competing so tight with the top. They've been in second place now for 3 or 4 days running. And last night, or as of this morning, the only thing that separated first and second place was, I think, 4 points out of 1,200 and something. So it's like as tight as it could possibly be. I'm looking at the stats right now. Here they are. They've completed 63% of today's stats. They obviously skipped a few. They're good at knowing which ones to skip and which ones to get. And then I'm assuming, look, they only have 2 left. A 19, number 19 and 20 for today. That's a 10 point, and that's a 5 point, if I'm not mistaken. So, and then they got to be back to base camp by their certain checkpoint time. I don't know what these 2 checkpoints look like. They could be buried in the dunes. I know that they were having trouble earlier from a live that I watched, that the dunes were really soft today, and they have a heavy car with an LX. And we didn't get the 35s on there that we wanted, but that would have helped today. So they're obviously battling it out, but it is so close. So right now, they're at 171 total points today, and they're leading. The other leaders are Miller at 125. They're 185. They took a 10-point penalty somewhere, but they have 1, 2, 3 potential checkpoints still to get, plus a BC. So I don't know what's going on. Anything could happen. Anything could happen. Like, my stomach's in knots. So we'll see. By the end of the night, we'll see if Rochelle and Taylor pull it off for the win. So they're off doing that. And then we're here. We just launched the Walthall Family Adventure last night. Go check that out if you haven't seen it. It's a great start to a big, long series. 15 episodes between here and February. And then Tanner has been cranking away on the 4Runner right behind us, right behind Tanner here. Should we reveal? Yesterday in the live, we were getting quite a few questions about it. So here it is. Tanner has just been crushing it, working hard. This is the current state of where it's at. It's a little, we were thinking that it's about halfway through phase 2. Phase 2 is a massive stage. So we took it, we filmed all the way up through the completion of phase 1. And just for your reference, that phase 1 was buying it as it was, as a used vehicle, and completely going through it mechanically and adding just the bare minimum amount of stuff that we would consider necessary for you to take it on the Pan American. So it was pretty bone stock. Didn't have very much. It had a little updated suspension, a little taller tire, but it was factory wheels. But we really focused intensely on the mechanical reliability. So underneath got like completely rebuilt. You know, this truck, no doubt, I would get in it right now and drive it to Argentina. That was the spec, and it's at that spec right now.
Do you want to hop in it and pull it out?
Sure. Let's
do a reveal here.
Yeah. Here it is. let's see, we can't get into all of it, but basically what we've done is we pretended that we went on a round the world trip before we were to take it on the Pan American. Figure out if when we go do the Pan American, you know, what would we want actually after doing a round the world trip. It's all hypothetical. So we decided that obviously we would want a little bit more tire under it, a little more clearance, which then stepped us up into a bigger wheel because we know that we're going to get heavier. So then we got into more brakes. So we put a bigger brake kit on it. We put the Tundra big brake upgrade kit on the front of it. Then we needed a 17-inch wheel to accommodate the big brake upgrade. So then we put the icons on there, wrap them in 33s, and call that good. It's actually the tallest that we're going to go on this truck. Yeah, I know guys go 35s and 37s on that. Not practical for the Pan American. Let's just be straight with that. I mean, a 33 is as tall as you need to go explore the world. 35, 37, sure, they'd be fun, but not necessary. So what we're going to do now, because we did go to a taller tire, we are going to re-gear first. So next Wednesday we have at Dark Horse Customs here in Bozeman, we have nitro gears going in, and we're going to get it back to its mechanical ratio that it should be at. And you're going to see us like methodically going through, like, yeah, we could have gone to a supercharger right away, sure, we could have gone and done this or that, but we want to mechanically move ourselves up so that we're doing everything to the best of our abilities within best practice. Make sense? It's wordy, but it's a lot. So you're going to notice you didn't put sliders on it. Well, in our opinion, you don't need sliders to go do the Pan American. They'd be nice. Sure, it's an upgrade, but we're methodic. Like I said, we're methodic working our way through what we think you actually need. So when we did Alaska Yukon, we did have running boards. We had like the ARB slider steps things on the Land Cruiser, and I think some steps on the Tacoma that year. We did, which was nice to have. But when we did Central America, we ran with factory running boards all the way to Panama. It worked. They did the job. We stood on them. I mean, they were pretty hammered by the time we were done, but they worked. So that's why we haven't gone to sliders on this phase. We're going to save that for phase 3. Saves a ton of weight. These are lightweight and they do what we want, which is access stuff on the roof, provide protection from rocks and slush and road stuff. Not a lot of trail protection, obviously, but we don't really need it on the Pan American. Okay, what else did we do? There's a lot of stuff. Front bump. We're at the rear, so let's start at the rear. CBI dual swing outs. Dual license plates, only to confuse your local law enforcement officer.
Still a fresh install.
Fresh install. And here's kind of the skinny. We got the goose gear plate in here. The fridge. This is going to get updated coming up, so stay tuned to that. But yeah, CBI rear bumper with dual swing outs. Move the spare to the rear. Allowed us to put the Max Trex on the back, being the top, which now on this truck we're not going to run a rooftop tent. We're going to run like the Oz tent, 4-man Oz tent. That fits perfectly up there now without disrupting the solar panel that's on the roof that's keeping the main battery charged. That runs the fridge.
So show them where the charge controller is for that guy.
Charge controller.
Look at this.
So we like to keep things looking as factory as possible. So we went around and around, and we finally found that we're going to put it in here. So everything is there. If you need to look at it, you can, but it all goes away.
And it's about the most basic solar setup because it's literally from the panel to the controller to the main battery. That's
Yeah,
it. That's all it is.
It's straight, simple as it gets. Now, as we get a little further into the build, we might update that with maybe some red arc stuff. We'll see. We're only going to put it in there if we determine that it needs it. And the whole idea behind the video we're producing right now on this car is about mindset, not this car. We're just using this car as the canvas of how to explain our thought process when we build trucks. So some of you will benefit directly if you have this vehicle, but the whole idea is really that you have a framework to apply your mind towards your build on how to do it effectively.
Yeah, it's not a how to build a third gen Forerunner, how to install into a third gen. It's about how to just build an overland truck in general.
For example, today we did just put on the next level of suspension from Icon. Tanner just put the new suspension on. He didn't even talk about how to put it in or anything like that. That's not the idea. It's just like, here's the benefits of the shock that we had when it was stock in the more stock form, and then now that we're going up a level to stage 2, we have gone to a CDC shock with remote reservoir and stuff like that. These are the advantages that it gives us. None of it is about how you put it in, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we'll put tidbits in there if it's relevant to any build. Yeah, or good things to know. That'll be in there, but that's not how to do
little tips and tricks along the way. But yeah, it's not every bolt, every fastener kind of thing.
It'd be 15 parts long.
Yeah.
If we did that. The next great thing that we did, we installed a backup camera. So a lot of this stuff that, as we talk about being overlanders, so much of this, we get caught up into thinking that it's, I got to have all this trail capability. Well, in the U.S., it kind of gets into that. We do a lot of trail heavy stuff in the U.S. because that's what's available. But when you're looking at like an overland travel journey, where you're doing multiple borders, all that, you spend so much time in parking lots, narrow streets, and on the highway. So we are making sure that we are building in all the safety measures that we can to make that environment the best it can be. So backup cameras, all that stuff are being included with that mindset of building safety margins wherever we can. So something dumb doesn't happen out there and wreck your trip. Because you backed into something and you could have had a camera. So that's tied into our Overlander device up here.
And what's cool about it is we already had the GPS, so we didn't have to add any more wires or cables or monitors, and so you might as well.
So I'll just show them here. Brake. So if we go to
have to hold the brake,
reverse. That's about a 4-second delay.
Yeah, neat little feature.
Yeah, great feature. That way Rochelle won't back into a pole in Costa Rica again. I can make fun of her because she's not here. What else?
Interior, yeah, the GPS, really we did a ton of USB charging ports, but that was about it.
We kept everything low, like the GPS units and updating it. We did that on purpose because when you're traveling and you're going into hotels and you're doing this or you're in town, you don't want like all this stuff up on your dash. Plus in a Forerunner, back to mindset, and this applies to other vehicles too. This isn't a very large, the visibility is narrow. You start adding stuff up here and radios and stuff, pretty soon you can't see. And that's just it's not smart. So we put it down low to keep it out of our field of view. Also, by people walking by and things like that, they don't see like all these GPS devices and stuff. Central America, that can be pretty attractive. Theft is a big deal, and South America and places in the US too. And then all of it is able to quickly kind of get tucked away and go away for security reasons.
So we did just get an irrelevant question about the suspension.
An irrelevant question?
Relevant.
Oh, a relevant.
Relevant question is, when you guys are upgrading the suspension, are you taking the gross vehicle weight into consideration? Do you feel that you're effectively upgrading the gross vehicle weight with E-load tires and uprated suspension?
Yes. So here's the skinny on this. So right now,
we haven't weighed this truck right now. We're right at GVW. I'll just tell you that right now. Like, we're going to be as the way the truck sits, because what was the GVW on this? We had like 1,100 pounds or something like that, 1,300 pounds to work with. I can't think of it.
Yeah, it's 50.
With what we've put on it, we're already getting close now, and we do talk about that in the video series. We are going to exceed the GVW of this vehicle as we get past the weights of it. That is just 90% of the trucks rolling around on the highway right now are probably past their GVW. We will make a definitive point when we in the series on when we cross that line, because that's when you start becoming a test pilot. You know, the vehicle is designed for this certain spec, and now you are going past it. With that in mind, we know that we have increased our braking power, because that's part of the factor of the GVW. The brakes are rated for the max vehicle gross weight, right? So we increased the stopping power because we know that we're going to increase the weight. We have increased our payload capacity on the springs. We should look into what the actual strength is.
Yeah.
If we can find that. I know a guy who might know that. Mr. Kurt Williams might be able to. We could phone a friend and see what we pull up there. But there's a lot of things that go into ratings of a GVW, and you can't necessarily modify all of them to increase the GVW capacity. So, and in the US, you're stuck with what's on the sticker. So anyway, we are making those considerations. We're doing the best we can, and then we will tell you when we surpass it, and we just know that we did at that point. So we'll, yeah.
So we might need a back in because they're saying the connection's cutting in and out.
Okay.
So we'll shut the rear tire carrier here and go back in where the Wi-Fi is better.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
I'll use that fancy backup camera that you.
Oh, it's a good thing we put it on.
Can you latch these? Latch them down, push up.
Top tip.
Top tip.
So for David, asking about the long-range tank versus Jerry's, the answer is both. We have long-range tanks on all of our other trucks, and then we carry Jerry's as basically a second reserve. Jerry's are easier and cheaper, but if you can integrate a long-range tank, that's huge. There we go. How's the connection, guys? Is it better in here?
Is it better?
Anybody?
Just roll it.
Yeah, I think it should be better. Can't do much about it.
Let's see. Should we talk about the front a little bit?
Yeah.
So in the front, CBI front bumper, huge improvement. So one of the things that we're considering with overland travel is the protection of the front end. This isn't. I'm not thinking necessarily of this as like a trail protection. I'm thinking about nailing that deer or whatever down in Baja. And I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I need to get back. That's where my head's at when I'm thinking through this stuff. So we gained a bunch of strength on the front over the stock bumper, which has like nothing to it. It's like 5 pounds in air when you throw it. So now we've got steel front bumper. We Orange VR 8000 synthetic on the back, which properly rated winch. And then we put a rigid bar on there. We are going on everything. You use fog lamps more than you'll ever use a light bar. So we're gonna put in one of those, and then we found some cool Toyota factory fog lamp switches that will look factory when it all gets put in. Those are inbound. They'll be here next week. Yeah. See, supporting it. Let's show them the shocks. We have we need a light.
Up on the window sill there.
Yeah, we just got the CDC shocks put in here.
Shockingly easy.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
That's good. Cool.
It was one of those installs where I kind of had to stop when I was done. I was like, is it that easy?
What did that really?
What did I miss?
Did that really go that easy?
That went smooth.
Yeah, I think that's about it for where we're at right now. We still have a ways to go on phase 2. We were just today discussing what we would do next. We got the rear shocks that are going in. They get here Monday. So the rears will have the 2.5 CDCs in the rear,
Yep.
which will help. We just went through shooting this process of how we added all the weight on it before we swapped the rear coils so that we could illustrate why you need to think about the proper coil before you put all the weight on your truck. So we showed you how to do it wrong, or what happens if you do it wrong first, knowing that we had the right coils sitting here, but we illustrated that for you. So yeah, new coils went in today, much stiffer as is the, what is it, the 400 pound to gross vehicle weight ARB rear coil for this. So now it's sitting up here proper. It's got, holds the weight the way it should. A lot of people think that your shock holds the truck up. It does not. The shock only manages the recoil and the damping of the axle. The springs and the coils are what hold the weight of the vehicle. So we have the proper coils in there now, or springs, to hold the weight, and now the shock is under damped. And as we drove it around and on video today, you can even feel that. It's like the front's properly set up, but the rear is still a little gushy because the shock doesn't have the proper valving to manage the weight of that coil. So we get into all that a little bit on this build.
We're doing it in the stages to educate the viewer. Obviously, if we were to build this from ground up, we wouldn't go into all these increments.
All of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it looks like we're wasting our time, but it's all, the whole point is to show the stages.
To show the stages. And you as a viewer, as we talk in the film, it's up to you on where you would decide where you would stop. You might say, oh, I'd go all the way out to phase 3, or I would stop at phase 1. So each one is properly talked about.
And if you go to phase 3, you skip stage 1 because you'd
stage one,
spend a bunch of money you'd have to replace right
You
away.
just waste a bunch of time and money.
Yeah.
So, Brian, are you headed home? Look at this.
Headed home.
Congratulations on your premiere last night.
Thank you. Went well. Yeah, this is alive.
Yep.
It is alive.
Surprise!
So say hi to everybody.
Yeah. Well, have a good weekend, everyone. Hope you get out there and explore.
Finer words have never been spoken. So deep. All right.
We'll see ya. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, have a good night. Thanks, Brian. You rock, man. So
Yeah.
the next thing that we're talking about, and we were kicking this around. We're like, well, okay, we're doing the Pan American, right? Having done the Pan American, I was thinking through what would be my next purchase that I would find very valuable. And we were kind of saving the long range reserve aux fuel tank for phase 3. But I was literally laying in bed last night and I was like, nah, I would totally put a fuel tank in, an aux fuel tank, before I'd even buy some other light bar or something like that, because that is something you will use every day. And there's many times when, so anyway, ladies are headed home. Let's get them. Say hello to the world. You're live. Yeah, actually. To Expedition Overland fans.
Our amazing editors.
These gals are cutting the Walthall series. Look at it, they scattered. They got out of here so fast. Yeah, doing a good job. So anyway, I think Tanner and I decided that we'd probably look at putting the fuel tank in first, because that would serve more function than other things, because the safety, being able to not have to stop at night, being able to go further, not having, these trucks don't have big fuel tanks. 18 to 21 gallons is what they are, so having an aux tank is going to be a big improvement. Anyway, that's kind of the skinny. Tonight, yeah, this is coming along. It goes to the shop. It gets gears next week. We'll look at doing some other tinkery things. While that's in the shop, Tanner back to 100%. Between here and Christmas, these will all be fully mission ready for another year. After that, we try to get all of our trucks 100% complete by the end of this fiscal year. So going into next fiscal year, they're 100% ready for missions. And then tonight, I fly to Scottsdale, Arizona. I will be at the Off-Road Expo and Sand Sports, whatever they combine them. I'll be there at the Polaris booth with the side-by-side, and I'll be at the General Tire booth, going back and forth between those two, with the Ram and the Patriot Camper toy hauler. That will be at the semi with GT. So if you're in the area, come say hi. Love to see you. And then after that, my dad and my brother fly in, and my dad and my brother are taking a trip from Scottsdale all the way through the Grand Canyon and up back to Montana over the next week. So follow me on Instagram. I'll be posting some stuff there just on my private page. Should be fun while all the guys are crushing and doing stuff here at the shop. Moving and grooving. So take a couple questions, and then we're going to call it a Friday night.
Yeah, so we
We're gonna get
had...
to the airport in an hour.
What time is it? Okay. Yeah, actually, I had one gentleman ask about the roof rack and mounts. So
Okay.
let's go over
Yeah.
here. So it's an easy on crossbars and mounts, and utilizes the factory holes except for in the front. So you have to mount this rail along here, and I ended up having to drill and riv here. And even though the instructions say you only have to drill and riv nut one here, there was a gap here, so I did another hole in riv nut and bolted in here to keep it all nice and flush.
Now that is an option because the main one that they sell is the I think they call it the 3/4. It doesn't go all the way to the front.
Yeah, and you don't have to drill
And
with
you don't
that
have to
one.
drill anything. Yeah, it stops about right here, and it follows the factory track of of the Forerunner, that the way it came, and it was stopped there. When we talked to Paul at Equipped, he said, well, we do make a longer one if you're interested in that. It just requires drilling to mount the front. And I was like, oh yeah, we want the longer one. So if you don't want to drill the roof, you don't have to buy a rack that does this. But we wanted the full rack. You can sleep on top of it. There's not a lot of room inside these 3rd gen Forerunners, so being able to put anything big or like an Oz tent, 6 feet long, if not a little longer.
Yeah, it's big.
They're pretty long. So this one fits an Oz tent like a glove, perfect in length. So that was kind of the tent of choice, knowing that we were going to put that on there and that this would be the camping method out of this truck. So we put the right roof rack on there to accommodate that option that we wanted. So yeah.
How many rigs do we have mission ready right now? I mean, they're all
Completely
technically...
mission ready?
Yeah.
They would all be able to go to
Yeah.
mission at this point.
There's things that need to be done.
Yeah,
but-
it's just like anything. They just, this
Maintenance.
needs to be tweaked, and this needs to be re-zip tied, and this, yeah. I would say all of them are mission ready. If they had to leave now, they could. We like to operate on what I call a 1-to-1 breakdown ratio. One breakdown, one fix, back to 100%. So if we can keep our fleet in that position and in that state, then these trucks could go around the world at almost any time at the drop of a hat. And it just, if you don't keep that mentality, especially on this many trucks, or even your one truck that you might have, things start to you get behind on all the maintenance, and then all of a sudden you got a lot of things to do, and you're not ready to go take that weekend warrior trip, or yeah, I could hop in a truck tonight and go do that, because your truck's not ready. So we try to keep them really tuned up.
So I have another question.
Yeah.
So it says, for the re-gearing, Clay mentioned going back to the theoretical stock ratio. How do you feel about adding X% over the extra weight?
So I guess what we're really working towards is road manners on the interstate. So all we really care about right now is, under this current weight of the vehicle, being able to effectively drive down the interstate without wringing its neck or being completely underpowered, because that's what you spend so much of your time. 80% of your time doing is high-speed stuff. So that's why we're going to that. And what gears did we get? We got the 488s.
I don't remember off the
They're
top
right
of my
here.
head. Yeah. They're it was the highest we wanted, or the lowest ratio we wanted to go without it really sacrificing our on-road, like
Yeah, we
high
didn't
speed.
want to sacrifice any on-road capability. So,
Kurt was the expert on that one,
Yeah.
and he just sent us what he recommended.
yeah, we phoned a friend on that one.
Yeah.
We only have really one friend that we phone.
Just text Kurt.
Kurt at Cruiser Outfitters, cruiseroutfitters.com. He saves our bacon all
Yeah.
the time. Yeah, that's a good question. That's a really good question. So as we look at, as far as gearing, we got back down to where we wanted it. And as we go to phase 3, that's when we will supercharge the Forerunner. So that's where we're going to get our additional performance, but the truck will be mechanically back to where it should be as it came off the lot. I mean, within an approximate error, right?
And with the re-gearing, we're re-gearing because we're adding the weight, and it starts to snowball. So it's a good point of don't add the weight if you don't need it, because then you're going to be spending more money to fix the problem that you added to begin with.
Exactly. You know, like a lot of the video series that we're putting out right now is understanding cause and effect and what trade-offs you're doing by putting this product on or this weight on. We talk a lot about weights. We weigh almost everything. We do approximate weights before each phase, and then we break it down on what you should be thinking about with those weights. And so we knew that gears, mechanically, you should go gears first before you ever just throw a bunch of muscle in it with a supercharger. You know, get it back to the way it's designed to work, and then add power, etc. to it. You don't have to do that, but this is best practice. I'm convinced. I am convinced.
Yeah, and we're getting about 15 miles to the gallon roughly right now.
Right now.
To answer that.
It's doing really good.
Got
This
another
is a
question.
Great little.
Yeah, it's
great little
shocking.
rig.
Yeah.
I love this car. Love this car.
Yep.
So, what other question?
And we are doing, another gentleman asked what kind of supercharger. Is it the factory one, and does it affect the durability? Yes and yes.
Yes and yes. That is that's a really common question on superchargers. Does it affect the reliability? Let's just say it this way: the Magnuson supercharger, Magnuson was commissioned by Toyota to build the supercharger for Toyota, and the TRD group had to have everything on that supercharger passed by the Japanese spec engineers. Now, when they were building it for the Forerunner, when it was coming out, which never happened until recently when it wasn't TRD anymore, the design spec on that was so tight that they could run like a supercharger. They ran it for like 100 hours without engine oil, and then they tore it all apart, and there was some slight scarring. And TRD, as far as I know, disclaimers here, said that's not good enough. It's not. We can't meet spec yet.
100 hours without
After
oil.
100 hours of running without engine oil. I say all of this to say the supercharger that we're putting into this was approved by TRD, and that was originally the supercharger badged as TRD. Magnuson was just the one who built it for them. So now they sell it on as their own because TRD no longer does a supercharger program. And so yeah, it's the same one. So I have, as it comes to its durability, I have total confidence in the mechanical of the supercharger. Where we have seen fail points from a supercharger is actually just in belts. You add a belt, it's a more complex belt. That's where we've had them fail. Carry an extra belt, which we will. Be able to reroute it and probably keep running. And if you have guys that are installing it that are up to speed on how to do this right, I don't really foresee it as a major reliability problem. We had a supercharger in our 2013 Tacoma down to Panama and back, and it was amazing. The next question is, well, where did you find premium fuel? It requires premium high octane. We found it everywhere. It was never a problem. So.
And vehicle sympathy, how you drive it, is important too.
Yeah, we're not putting a supercharger in this thing to go jump it and see how fast we can go. That's not the mentality of an overlander. An overlander is like, I just did 10 trips without breaking anything. I'm a rock star. You know, I'm not like a rock crawler who goes out somewhere anticipating that he's going to break something that evening. You know, expecting that he'll be fixing stuff the next week to get it ready. It's a different mindset. It's a totally different mindset. Yeah.
Are we going to be putting a locker in the front?
No, we're not. As through our extensive travels, having a factory or a rear locker is really 90% of what you need. So as it pertains to reliability and all that stuff, we're like, I think it's good enough with the factory e-locker in there.
Yeah, we're not building it as a rock crawl.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, and if we're stuck and you needed a front locker and all that, we have other ways of getting out. We have max tracks and winches and things like that. And yeah, in all of our travels, in probably the 100,000 miles of off-road overland travel that we've done, we've used front lockers in sand. That's it. Maybe in some mud, a little bit of snow here and there, but we had almost all of our trucks didn't have front lockers, and we did all of that without really needing them. Are they nice to have? Sure. I mean, not going to argue with that. That's a nice thing to have. The Tundra has one, and we put front and rear lockers on the Ram. The reason we did that is because we're going to have to call upon that front locker a lot more when we're towing heavy stuff. The truck's heavy and it's towing a trailer. That's when it becomes, to me, a lot more justifiable to go the extra mile and do the front diff. So now, if you want diffs, make sure in your regearing like we are, that would be the time to do it. We're just not going to do it. Yeah.
Sweet.
Talking shop in the shop. Yeah. One more. Call it a night.
Yeah, we should probably get going.
I got things.
Sorry about the phone call, guys.
It's got a hot date tonight.
Wife's wondering where I'm at.
I'm
Yeah.
wondering where my wife's at. Hopefully that's going well. Should we check in one more time?
Refresh it one more
Let's
time.
refresh it and call it a night.
Oh, UPS right on time.
No new stats, so they're still
All right.
out there. Still out there. All right. Thanks, guys. If I'll see you in Scottsdale tomorrow, awesome. If not, have a fun weekend. Hopefully, go get some mud on the tires, and we'll see you on live. Thanks. Ciao.